welcome to Dark Loops, The Lasso Crew, the podcast in which we get together to discuss season 2 of the Apple Plus series, Ted Lasso. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss episode 3, Do the Right-est Thing. So, fellow members of the Lasso Crew, please introduce yourselves and tell us a little something about who you are. And we will start with Sistah K.
I am Sistah K from the Sistah Speak podcast. And been podcasting for a while, and I just got into Ted Lasso and I loved it. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Very cool. We're so glad you came. By the way, Sistah K just recently released her first produced movie. Am I okay? Is it okay for me to say that? That's just amazing.
Yeah.
You want to say something about that real quick?
Sure. So I was part of the Women of Color Filmmakers Film Lab, and we were tasked with creating a log line from the very beginning, just a line about what you wanted to do your movie about, and just went from pre-production all the way to post. And now we have a finished short film that is good, or
it's good.
It's a learning experience.
Exactly.
And I directed it, so it was my first time directing. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was a lot of fun. And yes,
That's fantastic. That's very exciting. Okay, how about you, Sistah A?
Yes, I'm Sistah A with the Sistah Speak Productions podcast, fellow co-host of Sistah K. I am in the fair city of Boston, a Liverpool fan and Ted Lasso fan. Take that, Tom.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Montien?
If I can stop laughing. Hi, I'm Montien. Registered nurse by profession, IT analyst, and I just love TV.
Especially this particular TV. This is just week after week the best. How about you, Tatsu?
Part of the Liverpool majority as well. Also in Boston. Yep.
You'll never walk alone, man.
Never. I am by day and week a work in customer success at a data science company. By night and weekend, I am a PhD student in cognitive psychology, and therefore I live the motto, football is life, but football is also death.
And football is football. There you go, man. Absolutely. How about you, Tom?
I'm Tom Bullough. I'm professor of philosophy at Illinois State University, Man United fan.
Excuse me. I think we've got icon wars going on here. Fantastic. By the way, none of you noticed I'm wearing lavender this evening. In tribute to last week's episode. So you guys know how we do this. Favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character. Whoever wants to jump in first, go ahead. The floor is open.
I'll go first if nobody else wants to. Let me get my I wrote this down. My favorite line, of course, comes from Rebecca, who was on a stroll with Nora, figuring out how to deal with a 13-year-old that she still envisions as a 6-year-old. And they're standing in front of a doll store, and she says, Americans really do the historical doll concept better, don't they? Must be their innate sense of triumph, however misguided.
Ouch. They had so much fun with that. Love to see the outtakes on that scene, right?
I love their subtle jabs in this show. It's tasteful, but still funny. It's still very to the point.
And what I love about it is the guy playing Ted Lasso is one of the people that's writing those lines, right? So, you just know that. By the way, some of you watched Empire Strikes Back this weekend. Did you see any parallels to Empire Strikes Back and season 2 of Ted Lasso? No?
I just thought immediately of you, Zombie Scotty. So I was like, I got to put that out there. And then Montien's like, I watched it yesterday.
I did. And so no, because I kept falling asleep, but you know.
You guys are killing me here, man. I mean, Ted, I'm your father. I mean, come on, it's just right there. I was just teasing. Okay. Anyway, else, favorite character, favorite line, favorite scene.
Favorite scene for me was when Rebecca and Nora were on the bed together writing the letter to the CEO.
Yes.
Nora was doing, the quick, you're an asshole, blah, blah, blah. And she was putting it into, regular kind of harsh business speak. And I just thought it was great. I really loved that time that they had together and what they did.
Kind of reminds me of last season with Roy and his niece in bed, and he's reading that book. It's amazing how they make these kids bring the real adult out of these adults, right? It's just fantastic.
Yes. Well, that's a nice segue into the scene that I liked, which was Uncle Roy Kent and his niece. And she goes, Uncle Roy, can we get ice cream for dinner? He's like, no, that's dumb. And she goes, you're right. Thank you for helping me set boundaries. I'm just like, what?
I love it. I love that scene because, I mean, it maybe pushes the parent thing, to a high level, but you are the one saying no.
Right.
That's the gig, right? And yeah.
But then Rebecca goes, wow, she really loves you. And he goes, yeah, it's effing annoying.
So annoying.
I love Roy. I like how crusty and irritable he always seems, but he really isn't. But it's like his persona.
Got one of those on this show.
We got one of those on the show.
Oh, you have one of those too, Zombie Scotty. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know.
Everybody have one on ours.
Tom.
It's funny. It's funny how Roy's quickly just turning into the mother of the season, right? He's the mother role.
Absolutely.
Well, my favorite line is when Nick says they are going to kill him, which I think sums up just about everything about the show. And
we're getting closer and closer to completing his role as the sociopath of the season.
Yes.
But as Tatsuya was saying, he's just become, he's giving parental advice now. He's giving relationship advice now. The old crusty Roy is gone. This inexorable descent to sentiment.
Descent to sentiment. See, I'm just going to push back and say it's all amplified. I'll give you that. But the signal's pretty clear, right? That is being able to be different people in different places. And, I like if you go back to season 1 when Nate chewed him out and said, you used to be angry at the grass, right? I mean, that was the role that he played on the pitch. And, being able to tell his niece, no, that's dumb. That's him on the pitch. The two complement each other. I'm not trying to diagnose it. I just think I like the way they're letting people be many things.
Side note, I love the scene where he's when he's a pundit and the old AFC Richmond coach goes, well, tell us how you really feel, like, in a funny way. He goes, well, you're a shit manager.
It's like, not about me.
Yeah, don't talk about me.
Oh,
yeah.
Those scenes are precious.
That was great.
I love those scenes. Anyone else? So I like the scene when Jamie's in the locker room and they're all starting to tell him all the bad things he's done. And they just keep 180ing the hell out of us the whole time. I mean, it's fantastic. So Colin says that Jamie called him a jaundiced worm. Jamie apologizes and Colin says, in a profile for my hometown paper, right? And then another guy says, you hit my mom in front of my dad. And then Jamie says, oh, tell her I said hello.
And sorry to your dad.
sorry to your dad, but tell Janet I
Jesus.
said hello, like her name.
I mean, we're thinking he's supposed to say I'm sorry, but he's actually being polite, and it's just this hilarious contradiction. I just love it.
Yeah, they totally ruined his redemption arc there.
Yeah.
He's like, I just have a few words to say. And you're like, okay, what's it gonna be now? And then he starts on with these apologies, but then they just start coming at him like, no, you did this, you did that. You called me a worm. Like, no. There's no redemption from you, from the team. Like, no, we don't like you. We don't want you here.
So what do you guys think of the way they played that out? Because at the end, he and Sam kind of sort of reconcile when probably one of my favorite scenes when Jamie says, throw me the tape, bro, and tapes out the name, and then the whole team ends up doing it. My first response is, yeah, that's just Jamie managing image again. But at the same time, you know, as Tom said, there was this descent to sentiment, as he likes to call it. I loved it. And what do you guys think of all that?
Awful.
No, so Tom, I assume you weren't tearing up at the end then when they were all very happy for Sam. And
well, no, just as you say, Scott. I mean, throw me, what the line is, throw me the tape. We're a team, ain't we? We wear the same shirt. So you've got, he's back in the fold now. You've got Roy back in the fold. They're all hugging each other. I mean,
it's an abomination.
Tom can't take it.
I mean, I said this that 2 weeks ago. I mean, in the first season, you had these friction points, but there aren't any friction points anymore.
But we've created the biggest friction point, which is coming. You've shunned your shirt sponsor. You're gonna lose that. That's a lot of money, right?
Well, yeah.
And they're foreshadowing by saying we are a demoted Premier League club, and we're in the championship, but we still have to pay Premier League wages. So we're in a catch-22. You throw in losing your sponsor on top of that. That's going to create some interesting issues.
You're starting to make me think they're actually not going to be promoted this season, right? That it really is going to be Act 2.
I know exactly what's going to happen.
All right, pray tell.
Well, they've got eight draws, 1 loss. They were relegated from the Premiership last season. He's got to be fired.
Well, that would be pretty Act 2.
And as Tatsu says, they'll lose their major sponsor. So there's going to be Rebecca will have to sell a stake in the club, and they're going to get some horrible foreign ownership, i.e. Dubai Air or American owners, if they're playing to four.
Baby.
And that's going to cause attention. But I cannot wait for the disaster to strike.
Or Rupert's fiance, wife is to be. She'll buy more stake in.
Lord, that would be the worst, right?
That would be the worst.
Yeah, wouldn't that be the worst?
Well,
Rupert again.
What you get out of that is a Return of the Jedi in Act 3, where they don't actually take over the whole, reestablish power of the Empire, but they reestablish their self-respect. So, even if they're demised this year and relegated even further down or something, there's a way for them to have a reprieve, a third act that doesn't have them winning the Premier League. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean,
I will say for Jamie to come back, he really didn't have much friction, or they had him calm down a little bit too quickly, I think, or be repentant. He really wasn't ever truly repentant, but he just seemed like it was really, I thought it would last a little bit longer for him to have a lot of friction with the other players, at least a couple of episodes, but it seemed like it just went really quickly for him to get back into the fold just from that one act. He's still a asshole. He's still he hasn't really changed at all. He doesn't really he hasn't changed his mind how he treats people.
Right.
I don't think he just wants to be able to continue playing, and so he's going to just try to fit in as much as he can. But I don't know if that's what happened at the end. I think he really was trying to show solidarity, but to me it was kind of out of character just a bit, because they didn't show him ever understanding what he causes in other people before, and for him to do it just that quick seemed a little bit abrupt. But I like it though, because I like. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is a dumpster fire scene all over again, right? I mean, it's only a matter of time before Jamie relapses. Jamie's always gonna be Jamie. He's got, but much to Tom's chagrin, what's going to happen is he's going to relapse. He's going to make a big scene, and then Dr. Sharon is going to come in and make things better.
Oh no, I like Dr. Sharon.
Yeah, the Fieldstone, Dr. Fieldstone's
I like that.
great.
I like her just silent stares.
Yeah.
That freak him out.
Yeah.
He can't stand it.
No,
She's always there looking, evaluating.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that scene with Jamie kind of taking Sam's side and kind of trying to become a pal takes place after Keeley took him to her office. And so we can assume that something may have been said there, and he was practicing something in the moment. And to be honest, it was kind of an obvious moment, right? In other words, Sam was in this crisis decision, and Jamie stands up and says, "Oh," that's why I said, do we believe it, or do we just see it Jamie practicing like having sex in the bathroom with a particular girl in the show, right? For his brand. I'm assuming, as you, Sister K, it was a bit quick, and that tension's going to play out. The advantage is I get to have him say all these stupid things for the rest of the season. I mean, oh, tell her I said hello. I mean, that's just stupid and mean. So we enjoy all that, right? Yeah.
Maybe it was a way to kind of reinforce how cool Dr. Sharon is, because after one session, she had Danny back playing. He was not thinking that he was cursed again, football is death. So maybe it's just another way to reinforce the fact that she is just that good.
Yeah, do you guys think they're going to give us more about her technique over the season? Or is that always going to be kind of a mystery?
No, because she still has to unpack Ted. So she hasn't gotten the Ted.
I'm sure we'll see that unfold.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's especially after that little lead tasso thing. It's just like, are you serious? Like, what are you doing? Him. He's got to come back, and it's like, no, not him. That guy. Like, what? The last resort. It's like, come on, that is so corny. But they all were like,
she saw right through it.
The team saw it. They were like, okay, we see what you're doing.
Nice try, Ted.
Right. And then there was a running theme about I think that's where the title comes in, about doing the right thing, right? So then you got the right-est thing. So is the right thing the right thing? Is the right thing the wrong thing? A couple characters made that statement. Who said it first? Nora to her Aunt Stinky. Nora to her Aunt Stinky. I like how she brought up that nickname in there, that sometimes you have to do the right thing even if you lose, telling her aunt to stand up to that CEO. And then the second time I wrote it down, who said it? Oh, Ted said it to Sam after the post-game press conference. He said, sometimes doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. So they kind of played on that. When is the right thing? When is the wrong thing? what are we doing? I love the scene with Rebecca and her niece. Two scenes that I really love with her. The first one is when, she took her to that little shop she took her to as a kid, and they're looking around and she's like, oh no, I made a mistake. Like, you're not that same little girl at 6 that I brought here, right? No. And then they start talking later when she's in her room, and she mentions how she has she said, well, you think you want to come to the office with me? She's like, yeah, I would love that. And she's like, like, why would you be interested in that? And she says, because you're doing it. Right. So here's a child that's looking up to her, really, and it gave Rebecca a sense of, oh, okay, like it kind of went back to what Roy was saying in terms of children just wanting to be a part of whatever you're doing, right? That's why his niece was so excited when he said, you want to go to podiatrist with me? Yes. They just want to be a part of whatever you're doing. Don't make it so big that you miss the small things.
Tom, you look like you have a response.
Yeah, I mean, I just not quite sure where the show is going. I mean, when you think of Trent Grimm, The Independent, and the setup and narrative of the first season, and the whole initial conceit is horror upon horrors in American coaching football, and at that moment they're in the Premiership, and now they're in the Championship, and he hasn't won a game after 9 games, and that nobody's raising that. The only thing he's meant to be good at is the fact they all like each other, but it doesn't make any sense as a show anymore. I mean, the kind of central element of that show, the central joke, I think, has just been played.
Well, if we follow your predicted plot line, and in fact they lose their sponsor, we'll have a redo of the scene last season where Coach Beard said winning does matter, right? That was the one time in the season when he got really, really mad at Ted and said winning does matter. And Rebecca's going to have to face it that a certain level of funding requires winning. And I think that crisis won't just be between Ted and Beard, it'll be between all the team and the front office. And, who are we? What do we want to do? We got this happy-go-lucky American guy who doesn't know what he's doing versus this, expert psychologist here who's probably going to save the day, but not in a way that we think means they get promoted. Save the day probably in terms of their self-respect, or which is, kind of sentimental and some people won't like. But for me, if you can find self-respect, that's about as good as life can get. So that's kind of where I see it.
What I would predict, and just because I think that they've kind of played Sam's character out. Like, he's a good guy. Everybody likes that, he's so genuine. He's had this big scene where he rejects his sponsor because of what the parent company's doing. I think that's setting him up. After they lose his sponsor, they need to find money somewhere. I think it's setting it up for Sam Obisanya to be transferred somewhere for money.
Ouch.
But
Ted, hurt. You're my father. I mean, that's
football. That's football.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh my God. That's rough. But I really do think Tom's right. This is a disastrous season. I do think it's true second act stuff, and there'll be a cliffhanger crisis that has to be resolved next year. Well, you don't have to raise your hand, brother.
They're gonna fire Lasso. I mean, I would think a lot of Sudeikis if he manages to write himself out. And then my prediction is that they bring in a new manager who just happens to be Roy Kent.
Yep. Can see that happening.
Yeah.
And then Roy
Mm.
gets to
That's a
say,
good point.
Ted,
Like
I'm your
plot
father.
twist.
Why
Interesting.
not?
That's season
Yeah.
3. That's season 3.
Well, do y'all ever wonder about the girl that Ted also always sees when he gets his coffee in the morning that she's playing?
Yeah.
I used
She's
to think, well,
awesome.
maybe they're going to ask her
Shannon.
to be a coach.
Mm.
What's her name? Shannon?
Shannon.
I kept thinking that they're showing her for a reason, and maybe it's because she's going to just kind of come in and be like a assistant coach or something,
Mm.
since she knows the game so well and he doesn't know it as well. But that hasn't happened. So it kind of made me question, well, why do they keep bringing her in rare, every
she
once in a
popped up
while?
first time this season.
She did
So
pop out.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think that would be great.
yeah.
There's a thing we haven't talked about, and that's, I mean, we've talked about Sam, right? And there was a thread to the plot about giving Sam a voice and giving Sam's lived life a voice, and Ted providing a stage for that voice. There's that great line, which is probably my favorite line, which is oh, hold on, give me a second, I gotta find it here. Oh yeah, here it goes. When bad things happen to people like me, I'll tend to write about it without even being asked. Right? I mean, the whole episode kind of revolved around Sam being centered, not just as a football player, but as a human being.
Mhm.
And Lord have mercy, if they're setting us up for what Tatsuya said and he gets sold, that's ouch.
Yeah, that's a pain
Yeah.
point.
Mhm.
I retitled the episode "Sam Finds His Stones."
Well, I love it, because what happens is when you take the risk to express what you think you want to see happen in the world, it sets a vision for others, who may not be as, what the words we use are, brave and courageous, but stepping out and saying, hey, maybe we do it this way is risky, and it creates a space for others to do the same. So I'd love to see, him do that, and then have Ted figure out, who am I in this space, right?
Mhm.
Which is kind of what we said in the first episode, right? Tim's going to be Ted. I keep calling him Tim. Ted's going to be deconstructed this year. And it's not just Ted, it's an entire worldview that's being examined. And extremely, I think it's being done extremely well. We can argue about that as Tom loses his mind.
They need more guest stars. I mean, we get the Arlo guy, who's the real TV announcer on NBC, and then Chris Powell, his assistant, I think is the Chris Powell who used to play for Spurs in real life. And then when Jamie Tart was on that breakfast show, though, that's a real breakfast show with Phil and Holly. So I think maybe getting a few, maybe Messi, he's out of a job. Maybe Marino.
Yeah, he'll come on.
I mean, I think that would help.
He's coming to Liverpool, didn't you know?
Mourinho would be a great cameo.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Fantastic. And I bet you people are lining up to get a gig on the Ted Lasso show.
Yeah.
I just bet they're lining up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they should bring in Meg Rapinoe myself.
Oh,
okay.
That'd be fun. That'd be a fun one.
American Connection there.
Oh,
I agree. I agree with Tom though. I think there's going to be a second American entity that enters the show, and it's not going to be for good. And I think that they're foreshadowing that a little bit with that dollhouse line. They always foreshadow things in the show very, very subtly. I think that might happen.
Oh, sorry, was somebody else?
No, please go ahead.
The other thing that I think they're foreshadowing two things is with Keeley's dating app.
Yeah.
And they're two things. So one, I think the player is named Colin. When she mentions it, he says, oh, like Grindr. I think it's foreshadowing that he's gay, and that's going to be an issue. And of course, they're all going to rally around him. And the other thing is, according to the banter site, there are no photographs, just descriptions. So I think we're going to have a wonderfully dreadful, horrible, sentimental, yucky scene when we see Ted Lasso waiting for this mysterious person who, guess what, turns out to be Dr. Fieldstone or Rebecca.
Or Rebecca, yeah.
I think it'd probably be Rebecca.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be Rebecca.
Yeah, it would be double killer if it were
Good
the
shouts.
doctor. Yeah, look at you go there, Tom. Right? But we haven't talked
I
about
don't want it
Sassy.
to be Rebecca. I don't want them to hook up.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
No. I mean, it's
It would be
as
awkward.
good as I like their scenes together. I really like them a lot in their scenes, and they can hint at it, but I don't want it to happen
Yeah.
because that to
easy.
me will ruin it. It'll just make it so ugh.
So you don't.
And
You
we'll
guys
just have a
don't.
bunch of just random romantic kissy scenes and stuff in there that we don't need.
No.
And no.
Then we'd all be
definitely.
jumping on the Tom train. It's like, we
Yeah,
don't-
that's
Yes,
true.
Yes.
Break up.
The sassy
there's-
thing is fine, but
Mhm.
sassy Smurf.
Sassy
but
Smurf.
I don't want it to be Rebecca at all. No.
It
Let
would
them
be
just stay close
way
friends.
more interesting if it was Dr. Fields.
That would be very
Yes.
interesting.
And it
That
would
would
be.
be interesting. That would
Mhm.
be shocking, actually.
So awkward.
It would be very awkward because I don't know how that would
But she's already shown that she can be in an emotional space with him, right? I mean, there was that, I think it was at the end of the second episode when she said, people really, really like to work here, but like, is tying forever really a good thing? I mean, so she can get in the 180 space with him. She gave him that moment. So it'd be interesting I think it'd be great to see that. We have not talked about Sassy Smurf, but in passing. But I loved having her back in this episode. I love the energy. I love the post-credit scene where the girl gets a picture with the team, and then suddenly she's got the picture with the team.
Laying across the team.
Yeah.
just love it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And well, Carrie's not here, but I paid attention to the music. And in that first scene, they're playing Alanis Morissette. Isn't that ironic in the background?
I'm broke,
And I was
but I'm
like,
happy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yes. I was like, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
I love that scene, that interaction between Ted and Nora. Because Nora's doing this like kind of like teenage, like, I'm messing with you because you're an adult and you feel weird around kids, but Ted's just like, no, we can play that game. I thought it was interesting because it shows that like Ted can like buy into sarcasm and go that route. He just chooses not to typically.
Yes.
But I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah.
Sarcasm as a choice is an interesting thing to talk about, right? Because there are some who love humor but don't want to do it in a way that is all about making the other bad or dumb or incompetent or whatever. And usually that's at the root of a lot of sarcasm, right? It's like, it's finding a way to other someone pretty harshly. So I don't know.
That's the banter, right?
Yeah, the banter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The banter. So I thought that was clever, the way that they did the name.
Yes.
And yeah, it did raise an eyebrow when the reference to Grindr was made. I was like, oh, like, what you know about that?
Everyone's like,
And yeah, everybody kind of gave
right?
me the
Yeah.
side eye,
Side eye.
like, what are we talking about?
I gotta admit, if it does come out that Tom's correct, and one of the guys in the team is gay, and they all rally around him, hallelujah, man. I mean, the stuff we're in the middle of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lord have mercy. Any sugar we can spread around a little bit, and invite. Like, and we talked about it the first episode. This show is just so inviting, and it gets you in, and then makes you think. Well, is that who I want to be?
But why is that interesting?
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
You're asking me seriously? Well, because we just talked about sarcasm. Sarcasm is easy. I mean, sarcasm is a way to not engage nuance. Sarcasm is a way to simply say, you're too stupid for me to entertain in a conversation, so I'm just going to say something snarky and move on. The real work is to sit there and engage difference and to not expect it to be resolved. What I call revel in attention. Find people you can be around who don't agree on everything, otherwise someone's redundant, right? And find a way to cultivate a taste for that. So if it may not seem like having a gay guy on a British soccer team come out and the team go around him, it may not be something that the six of us would think as, nuanced, but the world I'm living in, man, we need all of that that we can get right now. Just showing different things, showing things. All right, I'm gonna shut up, y'all. I've been talking
I
for a couple
guarantee
minutes
it
here.
already exists. It already
Of
exists.
course. Yeah.
And just that, I think it's interesting because unfortunately, a lot of times those folks will have to cover and hide who they are because they're afraid of all of the things that their teammates will say or the public will say. And I would think it would be interesting to show there's no difference in who that person is. It's how the people around them decide to or choose to interact or judge who they are.
I think you're absolutely right, Sister K. I mean, I think the theme is fundamentally important. I mean, what was a football player over here came out 3 or 4 weeks ago. So far as I know, no player in any of the European major leagues currently playing has outed himself. So I think the issue is really important. It's just, I suppose the attitudes of players are going to be the same as much of the attitudes of the supporters, which is that if a male guy comes out in a Premier League locker room, he's not going to get all hugs. It's not going to be great.
Right.
And I mean, I think if you're going to play that theme, you need to play it honestly and not Disneyfy it.
Right. Not like in this one with Sam, don't have it to where everyone is supporting him. I do think in that scene that somebody would have said, I don't want to cover up the thing on my shirt. I don't care about that. It doesn't affect me. That's more realistic. So yes, I agree. Hopefully if it does happen, they don't have all of the players and coaches rally around him because that's not real. That's not real life.
Well, yeah, it's like the Black Lives Matter. So when it started halfway through season before last, Premier, the league dictated it. Everybody did it, and then it was this season, and players in the Premier League did it, but they didn't do it in the Scottish League and in the European Championship. In the Euros, if you recall, England was one of the few teams to continue to take a knee, and other countries said, "Oh, we still support you, but we're not going to do it."
And look what happens.
Exactly.
Look what happens when the last 3 players who miss penalties in a final are black.
Exactly.
Just right back to it.
And that's where it should go. Is the
well? I think.
Sorry, Scott. Go on.
No, I think Sister K is right in that maybe the team did put the tape on too quickly, and now they're about to pay the consequences, right? In other words, the argument didn't happen then. The argument happened in this moment where people aren't often thinking through all the nuance of their actions. Sam said what he said. Jamie said what he said. Everybody jumped on board in a moment of social get together. And now, damn, y'all, do you realize what you did? And now they're going to pay the price, as it were, and then they're going to start falling apart, and I think that's good to see. I don't want to say good. I like that they show us that. I like they show us this tension between being nuanced versus being simple and caught up in the moment. If they If they don't come back to that and make them pay a price, then I'm going to call this a low-key series, and we won't go.
What this all makes me think actually is, in the first episode, we were talking about there's no common villain, right, in this show like there was with Rupert. Do you think that the common villain in this season it's either going to be the fans at large going against the players in the club, or it's going to be, Cerithium oil or whatever infiltrating social media to turn it against the club? Which that would be kind of interesting.
I
That's
love what you're
interesting.
go ahead.
That's interesting.
I love what you're saying,
That's
because the question is, who's
interesting.
going to be Landau Calrissian, right? Because Landau Calrissian was on the Rebel team,
Yeah,
Yep.
he was.
right? So
Mhm.
who's, is it going to be Rebecca, like you said, who sells Sam? Like selling Harrison, selling on Harrison Ford. I mean, yes, that betrayal is coming at some point. I think you guys have nailed it. And who's it going to be? Who's the Judas? That'll be interesting to see play out, right?
Who's the Judas? Well, I love words, so I had to look up Cerithium because I was like, what?
Mhm.
And it's a type of snail, which kind of goes back to that whole worm scenario. So yeah, maybe they do turn themselves on each other and manipulate behind the scenes, as corporations can do. I mean, his Sam's dad brought it out, right? When because I was reading their text messages, and he says, "To see you choose to be a shill for a corporation has ruined the lives of so many, breaks my heart." And I just put hashtag daddy issues, because here we had that theme of, these young men trying to please their fathers and these underlying father issues. He's so excited. He got the contract with Dubai Air, the sponsorship contract. And I get to send you free tickets. And it's like, wait a minute, did you know?
Wow.
And it brought him right back to, wow. So then, and that scene had no words. It was really powerful. No word, no dialogue, just these reading the text messages back and forth. And then Sam's face at the end, where it's like, wow, am I a sellout, like my dad just called me?
Yeah.
It was an intense 180. And that's what this show just keeps doing. Boom, boom. Because, yay, Sam, that's a big prize from a certain perspective. And then he was excited. Dad's the one like, damn, okay. Well, and I think that helps us. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I read that NPR article that you pointed out. They sort of do a recap of the episode. And they said that as far as the Cerithium oil, like Montien said, it's a snail. It's a shell, and shell oil is exactly doing what Cerithium oil is doing in Nigeria. Yes. So they just have these very small ways of, getting the truth out there and making you think.
They're closing in. I mean, they're bringing you in, and then you can't get out. And then all these things that you laughed at, boom.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're doing all of this on purpose. And the fact that it's so approachable is just so cool. Right. Yeah. Tom doesn't think so. I mean, they could have this drawn out drama, and someone says, hey, throw me the tape. And suddenly in the middle of the locker room, they have this highly sophisticated political conversation. I would just rather see what happened and then have them at a bar and get in a fight because they can't agree later. I appreciate what they did, because they're going to 180 us, right? We thought, oh, that's so cool that they all put that tape on. We love it. And then they're going to go boom. Now they don't have any money. And then they're going to go boom, but they still love each other. I mean, they just keep knocking us around. And and I get hit every time, guys. When Sam's riding the bike, he's happy. He's texting his dad. I am so happy. And then I read that text.
Yeah.
It's just they set me up so well. And I just never see it coming.
kind of like when they called out the fans too, saying, "Oh, Jamie's back. I wonder how receptive the fans are going to be to it." And they're in the bar chanting his little
Cheering.
song.
They want to
Like,
win.
okay.
They want to
Baby Shark.
win.
They want to
Tune.
win
I
at all
love it.
costs, right? Bring back Jamie if he's going to score.
Well, then now that we're talking about lines that made us laugh. I love that scene where Keeley's with Jamie and she takes him to the Dr. Sharon's office.
Oh,
And she
yeah.
says she's a brilliant therapist, and unlike me, she actually gets paid to listen to you complain. And Jamie says to the doctor, "So what do I do? Just sit here and blather on and on about myself?" She says, "That's basically what it is." And he says, "Nice."
Nice.
Just fun. Just funny
And
stuff.
she wrote in her notes, "Narcissist." It's like,
That's
of
fantastic.
course.
Any other favorite lines, scenes, characters, themes that are going to happen? Any other ways the show is related to The Empire Strikes Back?
Honestly, I started writing down. I started trying to compare who is which character, but I am not going through this list because I mean,
No,
I just thought about you, and I was like, okay, so who is Ted Lasso? Is he Luke Skywalker? I don't know, but he has his daddy issues, so I really was going back and forth, and I tried to name all the characters, the main ones anyway. And I did. I mean, we already have Tall Yoda, right?
we have
Tall
Tall
Yoda, yes.
Absolutely.
Coach
Tall
Beard.
Yoda.
Who's talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I will name Higgins as Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi, though.
Just don't give him a lightsaber.
I think
No, don't
I
give
don't
him
know.
a lightsaber.
I think Higgins is C-3PO.
Yeah.
He's more like C-3PO.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
C-3PO is the sarcastic voice of reason.
No.
Okay.
No, this is a great theme for the podcast. All right, we can talk this out every week. No, I like this. I think Sam could actually be Luke Skywalker, and I think Ted could be Han Solo.
I was thinking that too.
You know,
Okay.
Han Solo.
cowboy, kind of stupid, going along
Yeah.
with the flow.
Always
you know.
has a line. He's always able to get in and out of stuff because he's always got that.
Yeah.
He's got that gift of gab.
And then Rebecca's
Gift
going to
of
say, "I
gab.
love you," and he says, "I know," and then she fires him.
She's Princess Leia. Who's Princess Leia?
Oh yeah, it's definitely
Keeley?
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
No, it's
Keeley?
Rebecca.
Rebecca?
Because later on, then Princess Leia becomes the general, right? She's in charge.
Yes,
She's running
true.
the rebellion.
True, absolutely, love it.
See,
I never thought
put a lot
tonight
of
we
thought
would
into
be
this.
casting the Ted Lasso version.
I don't know.
That's
In
awesome.
that scenario though, then Roy's gotta be Han Solo. And I feel like then Ted actually becomes Luke Skywalker.
I love it.
Actually, I did that. I had Roy Kent as Han Solo, and I just put rakish charm next to his name.
It could be Obi-Wan
Yeah.
because he's gotten so wise this season.
He's still
I
got
think
that
we could
edge,
talk about
though.
Roy also being Obi-Wan
Yeah.
in a sense, right? But who's
Mhm.
Darth Vader then?
Just crusty. He's too crusty to be Obi-Wan.
Oh,
Too
Nate's gotta be Darth Vader.
It could be. Nate's
Nate's gotta be Darth Vader.
Oh, Nathan. Yeah,
But
what's going on with
he's-
Nathan this
he's
season?
transforming.
Talk about a 180.
Yeah,
He's just
transforming.
like, yes.
he's definitely transforming.
Yeah.
But I had Jamie as Darth Vader. And I put villain or victim daddy
better not.
issues again.
Yeah, they better not.
Big
they
daddy
better not
issues.
make Jamie Luke Skywalker, man. That will not work.
Oh no.
That
No,
will
no.
Oh
not
no,
work.
no. He's
No,
Darth
that
Vader.
won't happen.
No, Jamie's Lando.
He's Lando. He's the traitor.
Oh.
We'll see. I
Judas.
mean, yeah, so I think we all kind of feel someone's going to portray the club in some way at some point.
Big change. Yeah.
See, I wasn't even really having that thought before we started this conversation. That's why I love chatting with all of you, right? Because, I love it.
Interesting.
I still can't
Who's
believe you all don't
Chewbacca
have
then?
anything.
Yeah, Chewbacca.
That's Beard.
Good
I
question.
was gonna say Coach Beard.
Chewbacca and Yoda.
geez. There you go. Well, they are the two most centered characters in the whole series, right? They know who they are more so than anybody else. All right. Any other characters, lines, scenes?
I just like the new kids place to go and play in Britain will be called Charles Edgar Cheeserton the Third.
I love it. I love it. I can't imagine. I'd love to be in the writing room, as I've said before. They're just having so much fun.
So much
fun. All right. So that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Lasso crew members, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and we will start with Sistah K.
Where are we? Facebook.com/Sistah Speak podcasts and Sistah Speak Productions on everything else.
Fantastic. Sistah A.
You can find me at all of those places and also on Twitter at _Sistah A, SISTAH.
Fantastic. So how about you, Montien?
You can find me on Twitter at NurseyPoo2K2.
Fantastic. Tatsu?
Instagram at Tatsushi1892.
Fantastic. And how about you, Tom?
Email at aka@tombuller@gmail.com.
Excellent. And I'm on Twitter at @dark_loops. You can find all episodes of the Lasso Crew at the Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast or any of them we've done so far, leave it on this YouTube page or send an email to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next podcast. So there it is, from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember, football is life. Bye.